Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It is Christopher Dela Cruz, your life coach. I'm super excited to be back here again. Last week we were talking about setting our goals, setting really what those realistic goals are, right? So we were talking about setting, I believe, 3 to 5 goals short term and some long term. So I'm going to dive deep a little bit more on explaining what these goal settings are and how to properly set goals. And if you haven't done it, it's totally okay. Today I challenge you to actually do it. Now that I'm giving you a little bit more advice on setting your life goals. So on setting and achieving, that's the key word, is achieving your life goals. We can set a lot of goals, but sometimes we forget that we do want to achieve them eventually, right? So the number one thing when you're setting your goals, you want to make sure these goals are motivating you. It's getting you fired up when you look at these goals, when you think about these goals, that is giving you that motivation to really go out and get it. The next thing is make sure that these are SMART goals and not, well, yeah, SMART goals, but SMART meaning specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. So time bound really meaning you wanted to do it in a time frame that is realistic. You don't want to be setting these goals like, I want to be a millionaire, but you're in all this debt, right? That realistically, that isn't attainable yet. Do dream. You know, that's why I say, let it be relevant. When you talk about the SMART goals, be specific. What are your specific goals that you're trying to reach? Measurable. Make sure that the goals that you are writing down and the goals that you want are easily measurable. So you want to somehow figure out how you are able to measure that, right? So obviously financial goals are easy to measure, but then when you're looking at maybe goals as simple as like cleaning out the closet, cleaning the house for the day, that's your like week goal, figure out like how can you measure that, right? So figure out, okay, in 7 days, I want to get my whole house clean. So let's measure that by breaking it down day by day. The next thing would be attainable. Is it realistically attainable? Are you setting goals really so that you can fail at them? Or are you setting goals because they are actually realistically attainable? The issue that people have is that when they're setting goals, is that they sometimes are setting goals that aren't realistic to their current situation, therefore setting themselves up for failure before even trying to start to achieve them. Make sure it's attainable, make sure it's realistic. Remember, we're all in our own situation. We're all different. We're all experiencing different things. We are all experiencing different struggles. Don't compare your goals and your outcomes with other people. We are all unique. And remember, any step forward is something to celebrate. Next thing is make sure it's relevant. You don't want to set goals that are not relevant to who you are as a person. That's something I really wholeheartedly believe, is that if you're setting goals because other people are telling you, it's not relevant to who you are as a person. So me as a life coach, I'm telling you and advising you that if you're gonna set goals, set the goals because you want it and because they're relevant to you, who you are as a person, and what you want your life to look like. And again, time bound. Make sure that it's in a time frame that is realistic for you. So it doesn't have to be overnight. Look, goals are made to be really like you have to work towards that, because when you reach that, it's something to celebrate. So we're gonna jump back into SMART goals a little bit later, but the next thing is to write your goals down. So I did challenge you that last week. If you didn't do that last week, I challenge you now to get a pen, get a paper, write those goals down. It doesn't have to be a list of 10 goals. It could just be one goal. It could be 2, 3, however many goals you want. Make sure it is true to who you are, true to the lifestyle and life that you want, right? So usually I always say baby steps is always better. You don't ever want to think that I'm going to create this goal and I'm going to hit it, but it's not achievable. So then again, don't set yourself up for failure. Maybe start with one goal. And if you have a larger goal, the one thing I will tell all my clients is, what are all the steps needed to take to eventually reach that larger goal? So all of those steps, people don't think about it, but those are also goals and milestones to hit. So if you do have a larger goal, great. So figure out how many steps it takes to realistically get to there, and create those steps. Make those your goals first. Make those your milestones first. And then have the other on a vision board, which I will tap into a little bit later. The next thing that you want to do when you're setting goals and making sure that you are able to achieve them is create an action plan. The one thing I think a lot of people do wrong is that they're motivated. They have all these goals. Let's say they follow the SMART guidelines: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. They write it down. The problem is that they stop there, and nothing's gonna happen if you just stop there. If you write it down, unless you have some sort of magic to make it happen, you have to have some sort of action plan. Without an action plan, most people tend to get lost, tend to forget about their goals, tend to, set themselves up for failure because they don't have an action plan that isn't realistic to their situation. So that is one next step that I find my clients not doing, is that they get all the way to step 1, 2, 3, writing it down. They have their SMART goals. They're super pumped, excited, but there's no action plan. How do you expect to reach your goals without an action plan? So I challenge you, once you have your goals, and those goals that if you wrote them down last week, great. So now I challenge you to create the action plan. What actions are needed to hit those goals, right? And I just broke it down. So if you have a larger goal, those little steps to get there, what steps and actions do you need to take to hit those little milestones? Figure that out, write it out. The best thing that you can do is create a chart, use an Excel sheet, use Post-it notes, whatever works for you. Create an action plan, because that will help you not only continue the motivation, but it'll help you attain those goals, really give you that fire. Because once you start creating that action plan and you're actually putting action to the plan, things will start happening. You will start seeing your goals come to life, and you realize it's not that far in front of you. It's so close. But sometimes we get lost on what actions we have to do to hit those goals. And the last very thing with your action plan, and this is, maybe you get to the action plan, but this next step is where a lot of my clients struggle. But I am here to motivate you. I motivate them. I even use this on a daily basis. Always stick with it. That is why I stress how important it is to create an action plan. Have a list of goals that are realistic, that are attainable, and something that you can get done within a time frame that is realistic for you. Some people are busier than others. Don't think that because other people have more time and they're getting more things accomplished, that doesn't mean they're better than you. Doesn't mean that at all. We are all on our own journey. And that is the best part about our lives, is that we are on our own journey. So don't ever compare yourself to anyone. Always stick with what your goals are that you wrote down. Stick with the action plan. So how do you do that? Obviously, you can write things down. And that's great. You have them in front of you. You're putting that out in the universe. Another thing that I highly encourage is create a vision board. A vision board is a way to be creative, but also have your dreams, have your goals out in front of you. A great way to put everything you want in your life in a collage. And I challenge you to create one for this year. Some people have vision boards for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years down the line, which I have nothing against. But the thing I like to work towards are things that are realistic in the now, that are now in this next upcoming year. Because the year goes by pretty quick. And if we are having goals that are 5, 10 years down the line and only sticking and looking to those goals, we tend to get discouraged because we're not hitting those goals yet. There's all this time in between. We tend to be sidetracked. When we're doing short-term goals from a week to a year, it's more relevant. It's easily attainable. It's something that's within a time frame that makes sense. And then you're gonna realize after a year has gone by, like, wow, I actually accomplished everything I wanted on my list, plus more, which that's the one thing that I started to surprise myself with. You know, before I got into life coaching, I started to realize, like, I have all these long-term goals and I'm always getting discouraged. I'm always getting, like, my motivation's just going out the window. And once I changed my outlook to make it short-term goals, baby steps, it's all progress, right? When you think about a baby taking those first steps, they're not going to immediately be able to walk right away. They can't run. They can't navigate their way through life until they grow up. They start to learn these skills. So exactly the same thing with your goals and me as a life coach. You got to think about that. It's not going to be overnight. It's going to take the baby steps to get to those goals. So don't be discouraged, but do create goals that are realistic, because that is what's going to make you feel good. That, like, wow, I can check that off. I hit that goal. I hit that goal. Every step towards the larger goal is a milestone. So reward yourself for that. You deserve it. So again, I'm going to break that down a little bit again one more time. When you're creating your goals and you're thinking about goals. So if you created goals last week, but you're realizing, oh, maybe some of these aren't realistic or not attainable, at least within this year, think about it. Think about what you want. What do you want? What's your goal? What do you want to be accomplished this year? The next thing is create a deadline for these goals. That's why I always say, start off small and you can always add on. There's nothing better than starting off with 3 goals, check marking them once you hit them, and then realizing, okay, I got 3 done. Let me add more to that. It always makes you feel better because you're realizing, wow, I actually can hit goals that are realistic and attainable. The next thing, again, create that action plan, because without an action plan, a lot of us tend to get lost. So I challenge you, if you wrote them last week and you're like, great, what's the next step? Create that action plan. How are you gonna get to those goals? Whether it's 1 week or a year. Another thing I encourage you to do, and this is either write it on a post-it note yourself, create a wallpaper for your phone. Why do you want these goals? Or write it next to goals. Write the goal. Why do you want the goal? Is it based off of money? Is it based off of, like, figure out why you want that? Is it because it's gonna make you feel good? Is it because it's gonna give you stability? Is it because it's gonna give you the lifestyle that you've always wanted, that you are able to use your passion projects and actually make that your lifelong full-time career? Figure out what the why is. Next, always reward yourself. I said that last week. Reward yourself, because there's nothing better than giving yourself reward for hitting those milestones. And the last part, have somebody that will hold you accountable. So thank you guys. I appreciate you tuning in. Please subscribe. I have plenty more coming soon. I challenge you, create those goals, create those action plans. I will be back next week to give you more goals on how to move forward with those action plans. So subscribe. I will see you all later.